The meaning of the initiatory process. Before proceeding with our next point concerning the fusion of the Master's consciousness with that of his disciple, I would like to refer to the significance of the words I earlier emphasized, the initiatory process. I have dealt at length with the theme of initiation in many of my books and have endeavored to present the subject in such a manner that it becomes apparent that it fits into the evolutionary process as a normal and inevitable procedure. Initiation has been so frequently presented as being a ceremony that I have felt it necessary to offset strenuously that erroneous significance. If, however, you are to comprehend that which I have to say, you will have to call in what measures of enlightened understanding you may possess. Initiation is only a ceremony insofar that there comes a climaxing point in the initiatory process in which the disciple's consciousness becomes dramatically aware of the personnel of the hierarchy and of his own position in relation to it. This realization he symbolizes to himself successively and on an increasingly large scale as a great rhythmic ceremonial of progressive revelation in which he, as a candidate, is the center of the hierarchical stage. This is definitely so from the ceremonial angle in the first two initiations and in relation to the Christ as the initiator. After the third initiation, the ceremonial angle lessens in his consciousness because the higher initiations are not registered by the mind with its ability to reduce realization into symbolic form and thus transmitted to the brain, but they reach the brain and are there registered via the antikarana. The results of the experience of expansion are now definitely of such a nature that they cannot be reduced to symbols or to symbolic happenings. They are formless and remain in the higher consciousness. I am not here saying that the teachings given in the past by various occult groups or in my book, Initiation Human and Solar, are not correct or do not recount accurately what the candidate believes has taken place. The point I seek to make is that the ceremonial aspect is due to the thought form-making capacity of the disciple and, which is of major importance, constitutes his contribution to the future externalization of the initiatory process in its earlier stages. When an adequate number of disciples have succeeded in relating the spiritual triad to the soul-infused personality and have occultly precipitated the energies of the monad through the medium of the antikarana, then the first and second initiations can be ceremoniously enacted on earth. The higher initiations cannot be thus presented, but will be enacted on the mental plane through the medium of symbols and not through the details of ceremonious happenings. This symbolic representation will hold good for the third, the fourth, and the fifth initiations. After these 5 great expansions have taken place, the initiations will no longer be registered as factual ceremonials on earth or as symbolic visualizations on the mental plane. It is hard to find a word or a phrase which can express what occurs. The nearest I can approach to the truth is the existence of illumination through revelation. You will note in this connection that the 5th initiation is given the name of revelation. You therefore have a sequence of consequences or of the results of spiritual attainment, which are as follows. 1. Factual ceremonials based on externalization. Initiation 1, the birth. Initiation 2, the baptism. 2. Symbolic representation based on spiritual visualization. Initiation 3, the transfiguration. Initiation 4, the renunciation. Initiation 5, the revelation. And 3, illumination through revelation based on living light. We have initiation 6, decision. Initiation 7, resurrection. initiation 8, transition, and initiation 9, refusal. It will be obvious that these three attempts to define the process of initiation present only the outer form aspects. Each initiation has three aspects, as has all else in nature, for initiation is a natural process. There is its first form aspect, then its soul or consciousness aspect, and finally its life aspect. The form aspect culminates experience and presents the disciple's comprehension of the initiatory process. The consciousness aspect indicates in a mysterious manner the rate of expansion as the disciple has undergone the process. The life aspect permits of extraplanetary contact, thus indicating the possible future and the eventual process of identification. It might be added that the factual ceremonial admits the disciple into full fellowship with the hierarchy, that the symbolic representation indicates to the disciple the way into Shambhala, and that illumined revelation presents to the initiate the bridge between our cosmic physical plane and the inner subjective and cosmic worlds. This entrance to the bridge, I am speaking in symbols, reveals the existence of the cosmic antikarana created by the Lord of the World and his group of executives. This information concerning the initiatory process is coordinating in its nature and is of service to you only in this connection. It demonstrates the underlying solar synthesis, which was the fundamental platform I gave out in A Treatise on Cosmic Fire. Beyond that implication, the information is of no use to you. It enables you, however, to begin to develop the esoteric sense of synthesis. These three grades of appreciation or of comprehension of the initiatory process are hinted at in the Masonic work. The ceremonial aspect can be related to the degrees of entered apprentice and of fellow craft, plus certain little practice degrees, as for instance that of Mark Mason degree and one or two others. These are expansions of the implied teaching. The initiations covered by the term symbolic representation find their first hint in the sublime third degree, that of Master Mason, in the Holy Royal Arch, and in one or two succeeding degrees. The higher degrees of the Scottish Rite constitute a vague and nebulous attempt to hold before the Masons of the world those expansions of consciousness and of growth into the light which are experienced in the remaining higher initiations, those subject to the process called illumination through revelation. The Masonic work is an ancient and laudable attempt to preserve in some germinal form the spiritual truth anent initiation. In spite of distortion, some loss of the ancient landmarks, and a deplorable crystallization, the truth is there, and at a later date, in the earlier part of the next century, a group of enlightened Masons will rearrange the rituals and adapt the present forms and formulas in such a manner that the spiritual possibilities symbolically indicated will emerge with greater clarity and a deepened spiritual potency. The coming form of Masonry in the New Age will necessarily rest upon the foundation of a newly interpreted and enlightened Christianity having no relation to theology and being universal in nature. Its present form, resting as it does on a Jewish foundation which is nearly 5,000 years old, must disappear. This must take place not because it is Jewish, but because it is old and reactionary and has not followed the evolutionary passage of the sun through the zodiac. The passage should and does symbolize human evolution, and just as the sin of the children of Israel in the wilderness was their reverting to a dispensation and religious ritual which had passed and gone, the religion of the people in the time of Taurus, the bull, symbolized by their falling down and worshiping the golden calf, so today modern Masonry is in line to do the same, and the ancient usages and forms consistent and right in the Jewish dispensation are now obsolete and should be abrogated. It is equally true of the Jewish race that in the rejection of the Christ and the Messiah, they have remained metaphorically and practically in the side of Aries, the ram, or of the scapegoat, and have yet to pass into the sign, again speaking symbolically, of Pisces, the fishes, and recognize their Messiah when he again comes in the sign of Aquarius. Otherwise, they are repeating their ancient sin of non-response to the evolutionary process. Let us now consider what the initiatory process signifies to the disciple as he seeks to lead the dual life which it demands. You will note that I call it a process in contradistinction to the theosophical definition, which regards it as a culminating ceremony of a period of training. The initiatory process is in reality the result of the activity of three energies. One, the energy generated by the disciple as he seeks to serve humanity. Two, the energy made available to the disciple as he succeeds in building the Antikarana. And three, the energy of the hierarchical ashram into which he is being absorbed or integrated. It is these three energies, each with its own mode of expression and each producing its own specific results, which implement or engineer the initiatory process. These energies are evoked by the disciple himself, and their increasing strength and revelatory capacity depend largely upon the disciple's determination, purpose, and will, his persistence, and spiritual integrity. It is through his understanding of the word process that the disciple discovers the true meaning of the occult statement that before a man can tread the path, he must become that path himself. Increasingly, the disciple finds what it is to become a creative agent, using the creative faculties of the mind and conforming increasingly, as he creates, to the plan of the Creator, the Lord of the world. The first three initiations are definitely in a most mysterious way concerned with the creative work and with the spiritual expression in a human being of the third aspect of divinity, that of intelligent activity. The fourth, fifth, and sixth initiations are as definitely related to the second aspect of love wisdom as it expresses itself through created forms. The seventh, eighth, and ninth initiations are occultly inspired by the first divine aspect, that of the will. Only therefore, at the ninth initiation, is the human being a full and true expression of divinity. He then realizes that in him all the divine aspects meet. Through them, he is consciously, creatively, and constructively in rapport with the consciousness of the one in whom we live and move and have our being. All this is the result of a process and the effect of the inherent livingness which is found in all forms of life, from the tiny atom up to those great lives who are little more than names to the disciple. This initiation process governs the dual life of the disciple in three ways. One, it is expressed in the results effected in the three worlds and in the tangible and growing proof he gives of definitely defined areas of attainment. Two, it is demonstrated as effects in his consciousness in the form of an increasing fusion of soul and personality, as well as growing power to invoke the inflow of the higher light through the medium of the Antikarana. Three, it is revealed both through the spiritual triad and the soul-infused personality as they unitedly prove the livingness of the divine love nature. As this revelation takes hold of the disciple's consciousness and conditions his expressive form of service, it initiates him into that mysterious area of the divine consciousness which we call the heart of God. This is our planetary correspondence to the heart of the sun. The heart of God, i.e., our planetary logos, and the heart of the sun, i.e., the solar logos, are mysteriously related. And it is through this sustained relation that it becomes possible for human beings to enter the hierarchy. Forget not that the hierarchy is the expression of the energy of love. The relationship also enables them eventually to pass off the cosmic physical plane onto the cosmic astral plane. Each divine aspect has 3 subsidiary aspects, and in our planet and on the cosmic physical plane, the lowest aspect of love, that which we call the will to good, is revealed. For humanity, struggling upon this cosmic physical plane, we subdivide unconsciously this will to good into 3 aspects. These we are only today beginning to grasp as existent possibilities. The lowest aspect we call goodwill, little realizing the attitude to the universal goal which it sets. The second aspect we vaguely call love, and hope to demonstrate that we do demonstrate love through our affiliation with the hierarchy. The highest we call the will to good, and leave it undefined because it is in no way possible, even for initiates of the 5th degree, truly to comprehend what is the nature and purpose of the will to good which conditions divine activity. The emphasis in the earlier teaching was upon character as the determining factor in deciding whether a man could take initiation, as it was called. And this was another of the presentations which have greatly misled aspirants. Character is of major importance, of such recognized importance that it is not necessary to dwell upon it. It is character, however, which enables a man to become a disciple with the aim in view of eventually entering the ashram of a master and passing then through the process of initiation. It is character which is rightly regarded as the first requirement when a man steps off the probationary path onto the path of discipleship. But he is still, however, a long way from his goal and a long way from being accepted by a master as a disciple. The truth might be expressed this way. When the disciple's eyes are removed from himself and his functioning in the 3 worlds is becoming spiritually controlled, or is in process of being controlled, then he is faced with becoming a truly mental being, and the focus of his life upon the mental level, where it is subject to soul control. It then, in turn, becomes the directing agent of the man upon the physical plane. This does not mean that he is occupied with making his lower concrete mind active, directing and illumined. That is taking place gradually and automatically through the pressure of the higher influences pouring into and through him. He is occupied with the task of becoming aware of the activities of his higher or abstract mind and of the pure reason which controls and animates the Buddhic plane, and which is itself susceptible to impression from the monad. That plane has to become the one toward which his mental consciousness looks and upon which it focuses its attention. There it must be polarized in the same sense as the consciousness of average humanity is today polarized on the plane of the emotions and of astral activity, but is shifting with rapidity onto the mental plane. This involves a dual activity. The lower mind becomes a potent factor in directing the service activities of the disciple. These activities become the major motivating potency in the disciple's life and are a consequence of a growing soul fusion with the personality, thus developing and unfolding his sense of inclusiveness. Inclusiveness is the supreme key to the understanding of consciousness. At the same time, the higher mind is impressing the lower mind and drawing it into a higher fusion with itself. This process of unfoldment creates certain major points of successive fusions with consequent points of tension. These points of tension, when consciously attained, become the actuating energy which enables the disciple to stand in the light, and in that light see greater light. Within that greater light he knows and sees, grasps and absorbs that which has hitherto been dark and secret and unknown. This is initiation. Periods of search, periods of pain, periods of detachment, periods of revelation producing points of fusion, points of tension, and points of energy projection. Such is the story of the path of initiation. Initiation is in truth the name given to the revelation or new vision which ever draws the disciple onward into greater light. It is not something conferred upon him or given to him. It is a process of light recognition and of light utilization in order to enter into ever clearer light. Progress from a dimly lighted area in the divine manifestation into one of supernal glory is the story of the path of evolution. In the Master's archives, there are some rules for disciples of very ancient origin. Among them is one that is so old and so abstruse that it is only now possible to bring it to the attention of humanity, owing to the increased mental and spiritual perception of the modern aspirant. It can be adequately translated as follows. The light is seen, a tiny point of piercing light. This light is warm and red. It nearer draws as it reveals the things that are, the things which may be. It pierces the third center and removes all glamour and desire. A light is seen through the medium of the lower light, a light of warmth and heat. It pierces to the heart, and in that light all forms are seen pervaded by a glowing light. The world of lighted forms is now perceived, linked each to each by light. This light is blue, and flaming is its nature. Between the warm and reddish light and this clear light there burns a glow of flame, a flame which must be entered before the light of blue is entered and is used. Another light is then perceived, the clear cold light which is not light but darkness in its purest purity, the light of God himself. It renders dark all else beside itself. All forms fade out, and yet the whole of life is there. It is not light as we know light. It is that pure essential essence of that light which reveals itself through light. It was the second light to which the Buddha and the Christ both referred when they said, I am the light of the world. It is the light of God himself, the Lord of the worlds, in which the lives within the council chamber of Shambhala live and move and have their being. It is the recognition of the varying lights upon the lighted way that signifies readiness for initiation. The initiate enters into light in a peculiar sense. It permeates his nature according to his development at any point in time and space. It enables him to contact and see the hitherto unseen, and on the basis of the newly acquired knowledge, to direct his steps still further. I am not here speaking in symbols. Each initiation dims the light already acquired and used, and then immerses the initiate in a higher light. Each initiation enables the disciple to perceive an area of divine consciousness hitherto unknown, but which, when the disciple has familiarized himself with it and with its unique phenomena, vibratory quality, and interrelations, becomes for him a normal field of experience and activity. Thus, if I may so express it, the worlds of living forms and formless lives become his own. Again, duality enters into his mental perception, for he is now aware of the lighted area from which he comes to the point of tension or of initiation. Through the initiatory process, he discovers a new and more brilliantly lighted area into which he may now enter. This involves no leaving of the former field of activity in which he has worked and lived. It simply means that new fields of responsibility and of opportunity confront him because he is, through his own effort, able to see more light, to walk in a greater light, to prove more adequately than heretofore his capacities within the greatly increased area of responsibility. Initiation is, therefore, a constant fusion of the lights, progressively entered, thus enabling the initiate to see further, deeper, and more inclusively. As one of the masters has said, the light must enter vertically and be diffused or radiated horizontally. This creates the cross of service upon which the disciple is pendant until the cross of Sanat Kumara is revealed to him. He knows then why this planet is, for wise and adequate reasons, the planet of distress, dispassion, and detachment. When he knows this, he knows all that our planetary life can tell him and reveal to him. He has transmuted knowledge into wisdom. It is the center of this cross of service that the point of fusion and the point of tension must be found. The point of fusion is created by the focusing of all the power, aims, and desires of the disciple dynamically upon the mental plane. The point of tension is created when the invocative power of this focal point becomes capable of evoking response from that which is invoked. For the average aspirant, for the disciple, this is either the soul or the spiritual triad. The meeting of the two focused energies produces a point of tension. Disciples should not focus their attention upon the task of producing a point of tension. They should remember the life of dual activity, i.e., that which he is at any given moment of endeavor, and that with which he can fuse and blend the sum total of his achieved development. The potency of his thinking along these dual lines will automatically produce the point of tension through the medium of the fusion of the appropriate dualities. It is through the activity of the lower mind that fusion with the soul is brought about with successive intensifying points of tension. It is through the activity established between higher and lower mind that fusion with the spiritual triad becomes possible, the points of tension arising at any moment along the bridge, the antikarana. It is through the activity of pure reason that fusion with the hierarchy becomes possible, and it is that which produces those points of tension which we call initiations. There are necessarily still higher points of tension, but it is with those called initiations that we are dealing at this time. Light may enter your mind in this connection if you constantly bear in mind the essential duality of manifestation itself. The negative and positive poles present within the consciousness of every form. The achieved point of fusion, the result of active and positive work and effort, is rendered negative to that which is being invoked, and by this means another and positive point of tension can be achieved. Initiation, a dramatic and a major point of tension, connotes essentially the fusion of the negative and the positive aspects. Owing to this, in all initiatory processes, it is the will of the disciple which is active and which produces, first of all, a fusion and, as a consequence, the appearance of a point of tension. Let me illustrate. In the work of creating antikarana, the disciple, first of all, and as far as in him lies, through the medium of positive mental labor, focuses himself upon the mental plane. The fusion of the soul and the personality is then present and is the result of a positive activity. The quality and the vibratory nature of that positive focal point is then rendered negative to that higher vibration or contact which is invoked by the existent radiance and potency. The response from the opposite pole is, if the disciple could but realize it, immediate and to the extent possible determined by the disciple's point of attainment. This invocative, evocative activity produces a point of tension, but not, as yet, a point of fusion with the positive pole. From that point of tension, the disciple works at the creation of the antikarana. This will eventually bring about the desired fusion between the soul-infused personality and the spiritual triad. The same general process dictates all the desired fusions and produces those points of tension which are the secret of all growth. The points of fusion and of tension the disciple consciously endeavors to bring about. These are the broad and general lines governing the initiatory process. The work here indicated is followed by all disciple initiates of all degrees and even by the Lord of the world himself. He, in his high place, holds the manifested world of energies in a state of fusion. Points of tension successively occur as a consequence of a growing divine realization within these forms of intelligent activity, of love, wisdom, and of the will to good. These points of tension vary according to the divine purpose and the individual initiatory problem of Sanat Kumara himself, as he submits to a cosmic initiatory process. Such a point of tension of stupendous magnitude is present in the world today. The intention behind this realized fusion and tension is to enable humanity, as an integral part of the divine body of manifestation, to move forward into greater light and nearer to the heart of love, which is the hierarchy. As this takes place, and it is taking place, the hierarchy itself moves nearer to a conscious fusion with humanity. The point of tension thereby achieved, and this has not yet appeared, will produce the kingdom of God on earth in exoteric form. We will now consider one of the lesser, though essential, fusions which must be achieved by the disciple, producing consequently in his life a point or points of tension. Okay, we'll leave it there for today.